everybody, Merry Christmas, welcome to the show. It's not Santa Claus in this red robe, it's actually me. Now, I thought I would do a Christmas special tonight because just in case anyone's having trouble sleeping, and I've seen a lot of cool posts about Christmas and the different occult connections, so I figured, hey, it'd be kind of fun to do an episode about it. So what I did is I got a bunch of slides together ready that talk about the Anunnaki connections to Christmas, the different symbolism, what it means, connections to Freemasonry, to the Phoenicians, a bunch of pretty cool stuff. So, alright, so I guess I'll begin. I think this is the best I could get the chat going right now. Hopefully everyone can see the comments. Yeah, it looks like it's working okay. Alright, so I guess I'll jump right into the slides then. Yeah, I hope everyone's having a Merry Christmas. Now on this slide here, what I did is I put together a picture of Santa Claus in the same position that you usually see those Magi guys standing in. And I guess we'll be covering the Magi quite a bit on the show. Those three guys, the three Magi that came to see Jesus when he was born on Christmas Eve. So yeah, and then I just replaced the Anunnaki guys with angels, because I think that's some symbolism we often see interchanged, is that the Anunnaki and angels could be the same thing. And I put the winged disc at the top of the tree. The sacred tree I put as the Christmas tree. I think it's kind of a neat picture. Sorry if you hear a rumbling in the background. It's not an earthquake, it's just a train going by. Yeah, at the end of my backyard there I've got train tracks, and that's actually where I ran into these guys here, the light beings. This is how my research into this Christmas mystery began. Yeah, and those light beings gave me a coin, and on the coin it had the sacred tree from Mexico, or I guess the Aztec. And it took me quite a few years, I guess 20 some years, to research the sacred tree symbolism to get an idea of what it means. So that's what I'll be covering here. Alright, I guess I'm just going to quickly check Facebook and make sure that my stream is working. Yeah, so far so good. Wonder if I can pop out the chat. Yeah. Anyways, well, I'll continue. So, one of the coolest examples of the sacred tree, or Christmas tree, that I found is from Crazy Horse, one of the First Nations guys here in America, and how it went here is he said he sees a time of 7 generations when all colors of humankind will gather under the sacred tree of life, and the whole world will be one again. So I thought that was kind of a neat saying. It's almost like evidence to show that the sacred tree is going to be found all over the world, not just in one place. And it's like every culture used to use it but forgot it, and we're going to regain that knowledge someday. Not saying I have all the knowledge that solves the sacred tree, but it's definitely one of the mysteries I'm going to be working on here. Now it's cool, the image in the top right, it shows 4 different colors of the medicine wheel. The white, yellow, red, and black. There's different symbolism for what each one of those means. I've read a whole bunch of different versions of what people think the medicine wheel says and or means. Some parts are like each color is for different colors of people around the world. I thought that was kind of neat. Yeah, so here's some of the first sacred trees I started finding around the world once I got this idea of what to look for. There's some in Africa, like Egypt, America, the Aztec one on the coin. The European ones you find all over Europe. A lot of them got smashed, so I just put in a Assyrian version there. And then Asia has their own versions, in India too. I know, like, a lot of people, when they see these different versions of the sacred tree, they find it hard to believe that there's any connection between them. Like, all of these things look so different. So I figured that'd be pretty cool for the Christmas special tonight, is I'll give some more detail on each tree and how they connect to each other. Make it a little bit easier to understand, I hope. Alright, the biggest clue came from the sacred tree in Japan. It turns out that they still have a copy of theirs in the museum, and they call it the three sacred treasures of Japan. And they've got a legend about what these treasures are and like what they each do. One represents valor, one wisdom, and one benevolence. And it's basically a sword, jewel, and a mirror. It's neat too that the mirror is for wisdom. So that's where I was thinking, like the Magi, for the whole Jesus thing that we're talking about tonight, they used to do stargazing, and I believe that they were stargazing using mirrors. So I thought that was kind of neat that the Magi got their information from stargazing with mirrors, and that's what the sacred tree is all about. So anyways, like a lot of people will talk about the sacred tree and thinking it's just like a metaphorical thing and it's not real. But there's like evidence here in Japan that, yeah, this thing's a physical object. Now, I was checking Wikipedia to see what the deal is with these trees, or these regalia in Japan, to see if I could get some pictures. Like, this is just like an official picture from their museum, but these ones down here are just like replicas. They're not exactly what they look like. And then I found out too that these treasures are like off limits to the public. At one time the Wikipedia was saying that they were, what was it, all held off out of the public view. It's safely in one spot. But more recently I learned that, or read some things, and it was saying that they've actually been moved, so that they're not all held in one location now, but still off limits to the public or maybe private tours. So if any of the viewers of this happen to have seen the regalia before, it'd be awesome if you could like post pictures from the museum or something. That'd be cool. Or even if you got information about what museum they're held in and stuff. I think the page on Wikipedia about it's getting updated pretty often, so maybe that's what I'll check again after the show. Alright, so what I did is I took the Assyrian version and zoomed in. This is it here on the left. And I put it next to the Japanese one. And I was like, at first I was like, sure, the bottom looks similar and the handle looks similar, but they're pretty much different in a lot of ways too, so maybe it's not that. So I just did a little bit of Photoshop and flipped the handle to see if it looked any more similar. And I was surprised. I was like, yeah, this probably is the same type of Magi technology for the sacred tree. Like, you got the orbs on the sides. The handle, when it's flipped, looks pretty much identical. And the base, like, if it didn't have this cover, you could see the jewel would be shaped like that too. Cone shaped. So I thought, after deciphering those two, I was like, yeah, there's probably something to that. And just testing out the chat there. Alright, so what I did too is I decided to split up these sacred treasures and make some slides and then compare each different culture's ones going on the same principle, that there's basically 3 sacred treasures. And it's neat, each culture almost has the exact same things, but they switch it up in some cases too. Yeah, so here's the first one we already covered, the Japanese ones, and then the legend or history says that they were brought to Earth by legendary ancestors. So I thought that was pretty cool. It's almost like brought to Earth, makes it sound like they're from the Anunnaki, taking them down from space. Or it also makes me wonder if it could be another dimension, but I guess we'll get more into that. Yeah, so here was just the slide for, oh yeah, I was showing that the light beings look like that, the coin they gave me, just to summarize the sacred trees. Yeah, and then here's the sacred tree on that coin and what it was all about. Turns out that there was a legend that the god of war told them where to settle the Aztec to build the greatest city, which I believe is Atlantis, but I'll save that for another video. So anyways, this great city that they built, they used the stargazing method of the sacred tree to get the knowledge. I was like, hey, that's cool. They're stargazing to get knowledge, just like that Japanese mirror. That's pretty wild. Yeah, and I was up north. I tried a little bit of the stargazing at different offering tables too. It seemed to affect my dreams a little bit, but I wouldn't say the greatest information. Okay, so yeah, here's where I broke the sacred tree symbolism up for the Aztec one. You can see that they have like a winged disc symbology with an eagle perched holding the snake. The snake is like the serpents that come down from it, that contain the knowledge. Yeah, and then the other parts it breaks down into is it's sitting in an offering table, like the one that I was trying up north. And it also involves a sacred stone that it sits on. And the cactus seems to be in an alternative position for the sword. So I thought that was kind of neat. I don't know if the Aztec had swords, maybe that's why. Oh yeah, and it was this all was predicted in an ancient prophecy. So it's kind of neat, almost like an Anunnaki type prophecy that the Aztec had too. Alright, here is a version of the Ojibwe sacred tree, or it could be Anishinaabe. It's kind of tricky when I was reading the Wikipedia to tell which was which. I think it says in the bottom there, but it's a small version. So I put it next to the Assyrian one, or underneath it, just to compare the two. And I was surprised, like they got the same beak creatures on the side, wings sticking out at the back of them. They've got a moon and sun symbology at the top, and that's actually common with the Zoroastrian version. And it seems neat too that they put a person in the center for the sacred tree. And the rock at the bottom is looks like Turtle Island. Or it could be a different turtle, I guess. Yeah, so if anyone's from a Ojibwe culture or anything and wants to post some more information about their version of the sacred tree, that'd be great. I really don't know too much about it at all. Just scratching the surface, I'm sure. Yeah, so there's where I separated a bit. The body was the sword. Substitute. I think it's like a cooking recipe, right? Like if you don't have one of the things, you can substitute it with something else. And each culture is able to substitute a little bit differently. Alright, so yeah, here's a version of the Mesopotamian one. Guess maybe I should have did it first. But it's apparently brought to the earth by the Anunnaki. And it shows the winged disc has the serpents coming down from it, and those guys would grab onto it for knowledge. And it's neat that theirs breaks down too into a jewel, a sword, and a mirror. I guess I took another picture of an Assyrian mirror and put it in there. You can see that like the winged disc symbology in this mirror definitely goes hand in hand. Or in leg, I should say. It's like his leg is the mirror here. You can see it's the handle. And he's holding some shamanic plants there, so I'm thinking there's definitely a shamanic element to this Christmas tree. Sort of like the reindeer and the mushrooms and all that for Christmas. I'm sure a lot of people have heard videos about that before. Sorry, I'm just getting over some concussion symptoms, so it's hard for me to keep this going, but I'll see how I can do. Alright, so the next one I got up here is the pagan version, and it's neat. The pagan ones, they show for holding on to the two serpents of knowledge. It's like the God Self icon thing that Richard Casaro talks about all the time. And yeah, they used a blade, they had the cauldron and the jewel, so it's like they substituted the rock with a jewel. It's almost like an upgraded version of a rock, really. And those offering tables, they upgraded to cauldrons, so I guess that they can make it portable. The blade technology is pretty much the same. Yeah, and if you're wondering where this guy's from, it's the Gunterstock Cauldron. It's like you can check it out on Wikipedia. It's one of the oldest witches' cauldrons in the world. And yeah, if you go to witches' pages to like buy their supplies, they'll sell copies of it, but it's super expensive to buy one. Or I guess I'd already have one too. Not that I'm a witch or anything. Maybe more of a druid. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, I guess theirs was inspired by the other side. So that makes you wonder the whole dimensional thing. Like, I'm almost thinking witches probably would have got their information from otherworldly beings rather than Anunnaki from space, but you never know. Could be. Alright, this one's really cool too. One of the viewers on my page pointed out the history of it, and I wasn't sure if this India one was legit or not. But there's like this whole YouTube video you can watch of Vedic history, I believe it is, or Hindu, something like that. And it's got like the whole story about what this pillar is, the sacrifice going on, who this demon creature is, how he broke out of the pillar. It's definitely some wild Magi stuff that's all connected to this. I think I got some other slides that break it down pretty good too. No, it's kind of scary here. This is where I realized that sacrifice was involved with this sacred tree ritual, so that's one of the reasons I think it got covered up, is when sacrifice is involved, people usually don't want to talk about it. Like, I know I've had guests that came on the show and they didn't want to talk about sacrifice stuff. So, yeah, I don't blame them. Sacrifice is really weird stuff. I guess I'll get into that a little bit more into the show when we start talking about the Phoenicians, what kind of sacrifices they did, and how they were related to Jesus, and this whole Christmas Magi Anunnaki stuff. Alright, so, yeah, it was taught by the ancients. The Vedics got their information from the Aryans, according to their sources. And people debate what the Aryans means. Is it people from Iran? Like, Iran translates to the home or land of the Aryans. But that was only changed when the ambassador of Germany was involved, I believe, back in like the World War II era stuff. So he was like right into influenced by what the Nazi research was saying, that Aryans came from Iran. It's neat that Albert Pike, the Freemason, also agrees with that, but I guess we'll get into that a little bit later. Yeah, so when I compared, what was it, these two, the Assyrian version and the Indian version, you can see that the guy at the bottom is the same shape as the cone. He's standing next to the pillar. The pillar is almost the same shape, but split down the middle. The wing disc, it's like these feathers at the top are peacock feathers, so that's like the symbology of the feathers of the wing disc. And the serpent sitting at the top is the cobra, and that's to symbolize the serpents coming down from the wing disc. So it's definitely, like, you can tell another culture's interesting take on it. Yeah, here's a close-up of the pillar and how the shape is so similar. The gruesome sacrifice. It's neat too that for European Christmas traditions, on Christmas Eve they're vegetarians. So maybe this has something to do with rejecting these sacrifices in the past, becoming vegetarian. Oh hey, Pete's in the, or Peter Coyle's in the chat. Sick. Hey Peter, sorry I haven't gotten back to you soon. Been busy with stuff and some health issues, but hopefully I'll be back to doing some guests and get you on the show again soon. Yeah, Peter was one of the guests I had on the Magi show, I guess, quite a few months ago now. And he was talking about Vikings and some history of Ireland. It was pretty wild. Yeah, we're going to be talking about Irish history quite a bit in the show, so I guess I'll get on with it. I got to keep going because I'm going to run out of stamina pretty quick. Alright. Yeah, so there's a close-up of the cone. Yeah, close-up of the different feathers. Oh yeah, and the neatest close-up I found was the two different texts. It's weird how Vedic text and the Assyrian stuff seem very similar in shape. So I don't know if anyone's familiar with either of the texts. if they know why they'd be similar, or if that's just a coincidence, that'd be pretty cool to find out. Or maybe, yeah, the Vedic text language is similar if it came from Iran, right? Alright, so here's one of the sacred trees that came from Bulgaria. It was neat that the cave art for the winged discs, some of the oldest in the world, is found in Bulgaria, so that's why I threw that one in there. And the cervicane is like their version of the Christmas tree. I guess some people debate that because it's more of a stick than a tree, but the symbology is definitely there. And they had the offering tables, and they used like Stonehenges for their stone too. And the theory about how all this information got to Bulgaria, even like some of the university professors debate it there. And they say that it was the people like the Thrace, the red-haired people that lived there, came from Iran, and they were migrating out of Iran, and that's how that information got there. I guess some of them debate too if they migrated in and out of Iran. Like some think they originated from Iran and migrated that way, or some think Bulgaria migrated the other way. Some interesting debates. I got a link to it that I was going to show everyone, but maybe I'll get to that later because this stream is already running pretty long. Alright, so the Egyptian version's got some cool stuff, like they've got the red-haired connection where they got all the mummies that were found in tombs that had red hair. And then their version too, they had a jewel for the sacred tree, a mirror that all the different pharaohs lined up to communicate with Thoth. They would stand next to this giant mirror. And the Dej, or I'm not even sure how you say that, but that was their alternative for the sword. And it's neat that the Egyptian one was apparently brought to the earth by the gods of the Egyptians, like Thoth and stuff. And it's neat too, I was checking for confirmation of this, and Sidney Smith in 1922 suggested this, that there was a parallel between the Assyrian sacred tree and the one with the Egyptians, because of the 4 bands that were similar. So it's not just me who came up with that theory too, it's some ancient or some old school Assyriologists. Here's a cool one too, the Celtic version of the sacred tree or Christmas tree. They've got the treasures of the Tutankhamun or Tutankhamun. I'm gonna have to practice saying that one, but yeah, I bet you Peter would be able to say it. Yeah, happy Christmas. And yeah, they had the cauldron going, the sword, the stones. They had like Stonehenge versions too. They added a spear, which is pretty cool, because that's another one that the Mesopotamian tablets showed. They would hand like a measuring tool that looked like a spear when they were using the sacred tree. So yeah, and it's neat too. These guys, the Tutankhamun. Anyways, those guys, people debate where they came from, and they seem to have like this Magi type magic, and they came from like likely the Iran region is my guess. Like they were Magi. Why I was guessing that is basically because they got the same stuff going on, the sacred tree, and a lot of the different miracles they're doing are going to connect to the ones that Jesus did. So it's like, it's interesting that people think the miracles Jesus was doing was original, but these Tutankhamun guys, they were doing it when they invaded Ireland too. So they had a lot of these powers that were like godlike to the people living in Ireland at the time. So it's pretty wild history there. And one of the neat versions of the sacred tree or Christmas tree is from Kabbalah, like the forbidden parts of Judaism. And it's part of like this book called Raziel the Angel's book. It's like the secrets of God that he passed, this angel Raziel gave them to Adam. And it contained all the information about astrology and the tree of life. And they showed the symbol of it, and it was like one of those. So I'm like, yeah, that's definitely the sacred tree again. Yeah, and then the whole grabbing the serpents for the knowledge, that whole part of the story gives it away too. That it was the Magi grabbing the serpents for knowledge again. Alright, so if you're wondering who this guy is here, it's kind of funny because like everyone goes to church and a lot of people aren't going to even know who this picture is, but this is like a picture you'll find in Orthodox churches, like old European ones. And who this picture is, it's actually Noah. And this is like how I'm going to connect, like how did this Anunnaki knowledge get from like the Sumerians and stuff all the way down to, say, the Magi that taught Jesus? So where that connects to is like Noah. Like Adam and Eve apparently still had all this Anunnaki knowledge and stuff going, and they were pretty giant. But by Noah's generation, the people were already shorter by then, so they weren't as tall as the Anunnaki. It's like their genetics had sort of diverged from them. So, yeah, I guess, where to go? It's like, so it's like when Noah was born, there was something weird about him. So I guess I'll have to bring up the website here to explain this one better. Like if you haven't heard, like the regular Bible doesn't give the greatest description of Noah, or basically no description. So we had to go into another book of Noah that came from the Dead Sea Scrolls. And I'll bring up the website for that here. Alright, there it is. So basically this book of Noah is from like the been verified in the Dead Sea Scrolls. People thought it was like a fable book, but it turned out that they were able to verify some of it. And it's part of the book of Enoch too. Like I know people make fun of the books of Enoch because there's so many different ones, but apparently one of them is verifiable with the Dead Sea Scrolls. And the Dead Sea Scrolls are these like old jars that were found in a desert somewhere. They basically had the Bible writings from a different area and time, so they could use it to verify it. So yeah, and then that book of Noah happens to give a description of what he looked like. And this is the clue that we need to figure out how the Anunnaki knowledge made it all the way down to Christmas. Alright, let's see if I got it here. Ah, here it is. Maybe I'll boost up the magnification so you guys can have a chance at reading it too. Alright, so the weird thing about Noah when he was born, it said here that his body was as white as snow and red as the blooming of a rose. And the hair on his head and his locks were white as wool, and his eyes were beautiful. And when he opened his eyes, he lighted up the whole house like the sun, and the whole house was very bright. So it's like he was glowing like a light being, almost like the ones that gave me that coin. So I was thinking, isn't it strange? It's like Noah's father, even in this tablet or scroll, was talking about how he accused his wife of having a relationship with one of the fallen angels, like one of those light beings or giants. And that's why Noah, when he was born, looked this strange way. It makes you wonder too, like what did the people look like before Noah? Maybe their skin actually wasn't white like his, or albino. It's hard to say. But it's weird too, it's like this book of Noah goes on to talk about the different generations. And it's like apparently, going by these scrolls, that all Europeans descended from Noah, and it's like his few generations. Here, I'll put it up on the next slide. Yeah, so when Noah's Ark landed in Turkey, his offspring spread out and founded like all of the major places around Europe. But it's neat too, it's like they kind of hint that when his sons made it to the different areas like Asia and Africa, they met new people there that weren't on the Ark, and they started to have like new different tribes start forming. So you had tribes that were half European, half African, or half European, half Asian. And it's like, it's weird to think, like, do we have any evidence of the DNA of Europeans mixing with, like, the Asians in ancient times, producing the Roman people? And then I happened to find that website too, so I'll put it up next. So it's weird, like these ancient scrolls that talked about how Europeans colonized all of Europe after the flood. It's like it's confirmed by DNA studies as well. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different websites that talked about it. The most recent one I could find was from the Daily Beast. I'm not sure what this website's all about, but hopefully they don't mind me showing their work and sharing it. It's like in a remote corner of China, there's a village with a strange lineage table, and some DNA evidence goes to the locals are descendants of Romans. So it's weird how they tried to say that the Chinese people are descended from Romans, not the other way around, that Noah's ancestors would have had new families with the Chinese and came back as Romans. It's like, I don't know. I guess people could debate which way the migrations went, but yeah, so there's different DNA evidence that they can show that these Asian people had similar traits to Roman people, or Caucasian features like green eyes and stuff, or blue eyes like the Sumerian statues. Yeah, I guess it's pretty controversial too. Like, I know a lot of people when they talk about Noah, they think it's all a fairy tale because of the whole animal situation, but I guess if you put the animal thing aside and look at some of the genes, it's like a lot of the DNA is testing to prove that the books of Noah are accurate. Strange, crazy sounding, but it's still accurate. Yeah, so here it shows the different people that Noah is related to. Nimrod was the guy for the Tower of Babel. Magog was the red-haired people that were also in North America, and they managed to be giants and got burned in that cave, Lovelock Cave. There's a lot of different things too. The Canaanites related to the Phoenicians, and the Phoenicians were the ancient Europeans that did the sacrifices. And it's weird too, like, I guess it's kind of gross. Shouldn't be talking about it for Christmas. Oh, Stormy's in the chat too. Hey Stormy, Merry Christmas. No, but I guess, yeah, what was I getting to? The Phoenicians. Yeah, they got some pretty wild history about, they did like the opposite of veganism. It's like, you know how veganism has its like superfoods? It's like they say like eating certain plants or algae or something is going to make you super strong. Well, it's like, well, the Phoenicians had their own version of this, except it was the opposite. It was like meat eaters, and they had like their superfoods, and their superfoods were pretty much the most disgusting thing ever. They went beyond just like eating the organs, like the liver and stuff, but they went straight to like the height of their superfoods was eating baby brains. So that's one of the reasons why the Phoenicians and the followers of Baal, they were considered evil. It's because their superfood was pretty much as evil as superfood could get. Especially if they're like kidnapping other people's babies to do this too, not even their own. Some people say that's what brought Babylon down too. Babylon, cannibalizing babies. It's pretty much a horrible thing you could do, so explains why the new tribes would wipe them out and try to erase their history. Yeah, and so here was the Hittites. They were some of the people related to Noah on that map. And it shows how they were some of the first Europeans to be able to translate the cuneiform and European languages. So it's a lot of these statues and stuff got smashed because the new tribes in the Bible wanted to erase all their history back to the cannibals. Here's the verse that talks about it. It says, "You shall not leave alive anything that breathes, utterly destroy them, the Hittites, the Canaanites, the Amorites." The Amorites were the red-haired giants that Goliath was related to. So when we hear the story about the new tribes killing Goliath, this was part of this. You shall destroy them all. And then the reason is so that those pagans that did the cannibalism wouldn't teach you how to do that. Because I guess you'd be tempted to, because this superfood that the baby brains was doing was like prolonging their lives for thousands of years. It's weird too, they say the royal families nowadays, they do the same thing. Where they're, well, not eating baby brains, but injecting young babies' blood into theirs bodies so that they can get the extra stem cells. Apparently it helps them live longer. Makes you wonder like why the Queen's living so long, right? She's gonna outlive us all, watch. No, here's the table of all the different descendants of Noah. Shows how the Magog people were over in North America. There's a base named after them there. It's actually a Freemason base still today, the largest outdoor lodge. And then, yeah, here's where the bloodline split, and they got the Gales, the Scythians, and the Thrace. The Thrace were those guys in Bulgaria I talked about earlier, how they came from Iran. And it makes sense too, like the biblical people, they got exiled out of Iran at one point when the Garden of Eve too. Or I guess it was Iraq, but people say that the Garden of Eve was somewhere around Iran there, Iraq, and then they got banished. So when they got banished, they probably got sent up north, and that's where Bulgaria is. Take the Mediterranean as far north as you can go, and you're basically going to hit, what is it, Greece and Bulgaria and all that stuff there. Yeah, and it shows how Noah's bloodline was involved in the Tower of Babel. And then the Canaanites were the Phoenicians. And the Hittites. And Sidon is the capital of... well, I guess it's in today's Lebanon, but it used to be the capital city of the Phoenician Empire. Yeah, and then the Assyrians had a god named Ashur, and one of Noah's grandsons was named that too. So that's like the proof that Noah's grandsons were part of that winged disc religion. Now it was weird too, like Phoenicians, people like in the Hitler age would call them Europeans, and they got shunned for doing it. And anyone that agreed with that was like shunned for like the longest time. So that's why like this whole mystery of who the biblical lineage is even started. But it only took till, what year was this? 2016 they finally did the DNA research on the Phoenicians. It stunned the scientists, but anyone who was a biblical scholar of that table of nations knew that it was true. That the ancient Phoenicians, these Canaanites, were from this European haplogroup UB, whatever. So, yeah, I don't think it really matters, like, what the nationality of all the biblical characters are. Like, every culture around the world has their own religions and stuff, so it's not like one's better than the other or anything. Yeah, and the way that sacred tree is looking, it's almost like all religions connect to each other in one way or another, too. It's pretty wild. Alright, so here's just some of the information on Magog. There was the tribe of the red-haired cannibal people eating the baby brains, so they got annihilated. In Europe, they were eating the human cannibalism, so they got annihilated. In the Bible, the Canaanites, the Amorites, they were the pagan red-haired sons of Noah, worshipping this winged disc, sacred tree stuff, and they got wiped out for being cannibals. Now, and here's the Irish part of it too. It's kind of funny, like people have studied the Bible in different regions. Like there's the Roman version of the Bible, then there's like I guess the Ukrainian Orthodox, and I guess even the Judaism stuff, and Muslims are all different versions of the Bible, all like the Old Testament stuff. And so people like seem to research that the Irish people also have their version of the Bible. And it talks about all this Magog stuff, the Scythians, because like the Irish are the same red-haired people that these Thrace and Scythians were from the Phoenicians. So it's like it's basically the history got wiped out. I don't know, maybe it was the Romans managed to cover it up. Maybe it was the whole cannibalism thing. They didn't want to talk about their own history because of that. It's weird when they say people go vegan. after a while they start craving the meat that their ancestors used to eat a lot. And they said that if people that have red hair go long, like vegan the longest, it's weird how some of them will crave human flesh. So it's like other cultures might crave fish, or other cultures might crave buffalo or something. But yeah, it's weird that red-haired people apparently crave human flesh just like their ancestors used to. Maybe we'll have to ask that Mike the vegan guy if he ever craves human flesh. I think he's a redhead. And so, yeah, I guess the only thing that throws people off too with this Irish history is they involved a talking fish. So just like the Bible and the talking snake, maybe the talking animal part sort of threw people off taking this stuff seriously. So just like a point of reference, if anyone's thinking about starting a new religion or something, you might want to leave out the talking animal part. Or who knows, it seems like it worked for the Bible. So anyways, yeah, there's some history or evidence found in languages. Can trace all the different languages back, and they seem to all connect to the Phoenicians, which would confirm that history from Ireland, saying that they were involved with the Tower of Babel and stuff, and the confusion, all the different languages. So there's some more evidence of that. It also says that all the red-haired people got driven out of the Holy Land in like Lebanon and all like Egypt and stuff. And I guess they got driven out for that cannibalism. But yeah, they wandered all the way to Ireland. So that's how these different tribes of people ended up starting to go into Ireland and colonizing it. I guess Ireland's had like this long history of different battles of people coming in and colonizing it. Like the Tut Danann did. There's another group that they were fighting with. I forget their name. But I'll check on that. Alright, so yeah, here's just a split image showing like the different cultures grabbing the serpents from the sacred tree ritual. How a lot of them connected to the Europeans. Proving that Table of Nations stuff correct. I think we'd still all know about this if it wasn't for the Bible coming up and wiping it all out. Because like these guys got wiped out, these guys did. A lot of the witches and shamans, they all did. The Druids, I think, got wiped out by, what was it, the Romans, maybe? The Egyptians had that war with the new tribes. Yeah, and then the flood would have wiped out the Sumerians. No, it's neat, too. People, like, even in Bulgaria were kind of debating me if Thracians had red hair. But when you check, it says that a lot of the tombs around there even show the people with pictures, like, with red hair, so... They called them, was it Rufus? And Rufus meaning redhead, so it'll say that engraved on a lot of tombs there. So if people are wondering if red-haired people really did dominate all of Eastern Europe at one point, here's some of the evidence to show they did. It even talks about what happened to them too. It's Cyrus, some of the new Zoroastrian people, which I guess I'll start talking about in a sec, the religion of the Magi. From the whole Christmas tree Anunnaki thing, they teamed up with well, I guess Darius, or no, they teamed up with the Jews, the new tribes. They had the support of the Jewish priesthood. So it was the Jews and the Zoroastrians that teamed up and wiped out all the pagans, stole their gold. That's what the Tower of Babel, when it was destroyed too, it was a giant gold heist. It's neat how a lot of these Zoroastrians and different Jewish organizations still hold a fair amount of wealth today. I doubt it has anything to do with the gold from thousands of years ago, but you never know, I guess, right? There is the World Bank whistleblower, Karen Hudes. She talks about how the Zoroastrians are hoarding some of the world's largest supplies of gold. One of my old YouTube videos talks about that if you want to check it out. It's in the archive. Yeah, it's a Leland Judson or the Magi show. Either of those in a YouTube search will find it. Okay, so yeah, I guess that's the Thrace, the red hair connections. And here it shows like the Celts and the Thrace, how there was like this giant red-haired empire that was dominating right into Egypt even. You can imagine like just how European colonies, like Europeans, the British and how they expanded It's basically that, or how like the Romans expanded, but it's like the Celts, they did the same expanding at one point too. I mean, it sounds weird because you don't think of like red-haired people as dominating the entire planet at one point, but Neanderthals actually had red hair, so it makes you wonder, huh? Now I'm thinking too, maybe like some sort of breeding happened between Neanderthals and the Anunnaki, and that's how Noah was born. Who knows? Yeah, so here we got the three Magi picture, and it's neat how this person drew the Magi with red hair also. Normally when people talk about the Magi, they're going to associate it with the Zoroastrians. The Zoroastrians don't really have red hair, I'm pretty sure, in most cases. But their prophet of Zoroastrianism is named Zarathustra. I'll see if I got a picture of him. Yeah, there's Zarathustra there. And within Zoroastrianism, there's a debate of like how old Zoroaster was. And it's like if like what he looked like. And I'm pretty sure that he would have had red hair too, because he was one of the prophets who said that he managed to revive an older religion. So how he got his hands on the old Sumerian religion is, I guess, kind of a mystery, unless he was part of that red-haired bloodline. And it's weird too, like a lot of prophets are rumored to have red hair, but it's like covered up. Like I've heard different Muslims say that about Muhammad, is that maybe he had a red beard, I'm not sure. But I guess we won't be able to check that too easily. But anyways, yeah, I guess I'll get back to where that was. Yeah, so there was the Magi, and I'm pretty sure, like the story goes, they were into the stargazing to get to their knowledge to find Jesus. That was the mirrors. Yeah, and here it shows too, like that occult symbolism of the sacred tree is basically showing that the Orion constellation. And Orion's belt points to Sirius. So that's why I think the Sirius stargazing and these holding the serpents is basically symbolism for knowledge. Yeah, it makes kind of sense when you think about it. The three Magi stargazing to get to find Jesus, like getting information about where to find him, rather than a lighthouse just pointing the way. Alright, so here's a picture. I guess this is based on Robert Bauval's research, showing how like the different shafts in the pyramids pointed at different spots. Orion's belt, Sirius, and Draco. So that's what I was thinking, like that's more evidence that they were getting information. These are almost like internet connections hooking up to the Great Pyramid. Same internet the Magi used. Now here's a picture of what Jesus was drawn to look like by Da Vinci. And everyone's probably, like, for the longest time wondering why the heck would Da Vinci draw Jesus with red hair, right? Like, but then when you find out that the biblical bloodline was all those red-haired people, it's like it kind of makes a lot more sense then. If Jesus had Phoenician relatives, chances are his hair was going to be red and he would look European. I guess it's kind of like offensive for some people to find out that Jesus was likely European, but I guess that whole Phoenician DNA is gonna settle it for good. Yeah, and it's weird too, like I checked into Da Vinci and all his different artwork about Jesus. When he drew John the Baptist, like blessing Jesus, he did the exact same sacred tree symbolism. And I found out where Da Vinci got his teachings was at the Medici Academy, which he was like they were his patron, where we get that whole Patreon site website thing concept from. And they were an academy that taught in the Zoroastrian knowledge, so they had all the Magi stuff. So that's why Da Vinci had all the knowledge about the Magi. One of his famous artworks was called The Adoration of the Magi too. So I guess Da Vinci could be wrong and he drew him with red hair for no reason, or this is the reason. Now it's neat too that Zoroaster, like this prophet of the Magi, he was also looks just like Jesus, like a lot of the same symbolism. Alright, thanks for the chat, Stormy. Yeah, some information about the Queen. Oh yeah, Muhammad's hair color too. Yeah, it's an interesting topic there. It's like, I wish we had some more information about the different prophets. Okay, so, yeah, I guess this is just to summarize how you get, like, people are wondering, like, what the heck does Scottish Freemasonry and Egyptians have in common? Like, Scottish people and the ancient stuff. Now you can see, like, there's this ancient red-haired bloodline that goes back from today's Scottish people back to, I guess it would be the Phoenicians and the Canaanites, or the Thrace people. Then they go back to that albino Noah, and then albino Noah got his information from the Anunnaki and that Magi religion. So that's how these things are all connecting together, I believe. I guess it could sound like a bit of a stretch, but if anyone else has an idea on how they connect, I'd be glad to hear it. And here's just a picture I made that shows, like, the winged disc religion is the secret meaning to Freemasonry. And that's what Albert Pike wrote. And he is the Grand Master, the highest ranked Freemasonry that was involved with all that Scottish Freemasonry stuff. So I'm sure he knew about the Thrace going back to Iran and stuff too. Yeah, so I guess to summarize the Christmas connections here, it's neat that the three Magi were the first people to teach Jesus. But when you check the Bible again, you find out that there's no more information about them coming. But there's 15 missing years. So I guess some people will say that means that Jesus didn't exist, like the whole, what was that movie called? The Zeitgeist movie? But when that kind of symbolism aligns, I think it more means that, like, as above, so below, events that happen in the heavens are imitating stuff that happened on the earth too. So maybe that's why, like, the three Magi are the three stars of Orion's belt, but it's like they're actually both real, not just one or the other. And it's neat too, like these Magi guy, their Anunnaki religion, the very apex of it, I guess I'll show you. Yeah, the apex of this Magi religion happens to be transforming into a light being. So I'll show it to you here. And it says on the Wikipedia page that Zoroastrianism dates back approximately 4,000 years, but then it lists the dating problems because they don't know how old Zoroaster was or what age he lived in. And it's neat too that Zoroaster, or the Zoroastrians, they're still alive today in Iran. Back in 2012, their numbers were listed at about 80,000 people, but I'm pretty sure that's more like the millions. That was just like a far underestimate, because like we haven't even have a huge community of them here in Canada and Toronto. So I think there's definitely more than 80,000. Well, anyways, yeah, these Magi, the priest of the Zoroastrian religion that used to be like following the Anunnaki gods, they talk about the Amesha Spenta, and what those guys are is they're immortals, but they're also light beings. So it's neat that the apex of this Magi religion happens to connect to those light beings. And it turns out that those Magi that taught Jesus, Jesus' greatest miracle was also transforming into a light being and becoming immortal, apparently. So it's interesting that there's that connection again. Is it true that Jesus was taught by the Magi the ritual of the Anunnaki to become an Amesha Spenta? Could be, I think. Now it's neat too that little handbag or mystery bag that everyone likes to talk about that the Anunnaki guys carry, that's still being used today by the Orthodox priests of the European religions. And I guess people are like confused why European religions would have the Anunnaki symbolism, but hopefully in the episode today I covered some reasons why that would be. You can see that they carried the bag, and they even dip a pine cone tool in it. They use it to spray people with holy water. Yeah, it's neat. Nintendo recently lifted the ban on showing their content, so here's a clip from a Nintendo game, Final Fantasy, that my friend Matt shared. And it says, long ago, the war of the Magi reduced the world to a scorching wasteland, and magic simply ceased to exist. So it's like almost like Final Fantasy knew about this Magi stuff. It's in different culture things around the world, like Magi symbolism's everywhere. Like the car Mazda, that's what that's based off of. Alright, I'm getting close to the end of the show here. I'm running out of energy, so it's perfect timing. Alright, the civilization that Perry Reese got his map from knew more than we do today. This is like a little slide I showed that I recently took Perry Reese's map design and put it onto Google Earth so that I could track the different ley lines around the globe. And it's neat how they seem to make and shape the planet. So I guess if you're wondering what this has to do with the Christmas and Anunnaki stuff, I'll show you in a sec here. Yeah, here's how the lines turned out. You can see that Perry Reese and my map are almost identical. Like the way the lines are shaping off the Strait of Gibraltar, the way they shape South America. It's a pretty easy pattern to follow. You just take the orbs, you add in 32 degrees, just like Freemasonry, and color code it red, blue, red, blue. My map only has half of them because it got really complex. But you can see even with just half of them, it's the clue that the ancients, the Anunnaki technology to how the earth works and how earthquakes work and why all the megaliths are built where they are. And then I realized that the sacred tree symbology is built into the winged disc. The angles that the winged disc is made on where the serpents come down is basically the same as the Perry Reese orbs. And it's neat, the landmass actually takes the same shape too. So if you take the whole sacred tree and you lay it on the planet, like here in Asia, it matches it. Like the Anunnaki guys' heads are like the same shape as the islands. The Anunnaki beak is the same as the shape. The patterns that the ley lines are going in matches the patterns of the wings of these bird creatures. The serpents coming down basically go right into the guy's hand, just like it would on the sacred tree. The orbs are evenly spaced, just like the jewels. So I think that's kind of neat that the Christmas tree is basically, the pattern of it is really old. It's basically as old as the whole planet itself, or as old as whenever Asia has been this shape. Yeah, because it's Christmas too, I figured I would take a slide and show what the North Pole looks like. It's pretty wild that you take out the circle of the regular style globe and add the Perry Reese one, and it maps the shape of the North Pole perfectly. It's really kind of cool, I think. Yeah, like look how even the island chain there matches. Yeah, so I won't get too much into the ley line stuff. I've made some videos on YouTube in the archive if people want to check that out. Yeah, I appreciate everyone, Stormy and Peter and everyone else who joined in the chat. I know it's pretty late on a Christmas Eve. I hope you guys are going to bed soon. You got some presents to open, or I guess Peter's in a different time zone, living in Ireland. So yeah, thanks everyone for still following my work on my page. I'm going to try to get some shows with guests done soon. Just getting over the concussion symptoms still, and it's tough to do everything on a show with all these weird symptoms going on, so it's making it a bit difficult, but I'm steadily getting better and better each day. Hopefully I'm going to be back to work and I'll be doing podcasts on a regular basis again with guests. Yeah, thanks for everyone for checking out this Christmas information to the sacred tree. Hope it explains a little bit why I'm always talking about all those sacred trees being connected. I don't know if I proved it enough to show that they are connected, but yeah, I guess maybe I'll check if there was any other websites I wanted to cover for the show. The Book of Enoch. No? Yeah, that looks like all of them. Yeah, the only one I didn't get to, I guess I'll show it here, is that the Freemasonry originating in Bulgaria is actually a common or maybe not common, but it's a theory actually talked about in Bulgaria, and here's a whole website about that. Yeah, so you can see that the Bulgarians, or some of them, theorize that the Freemasonry began there. They list a whole bunch of different reasons of why. Guess I'll put a link to it in the description. It's got a lot of different things you can read, but it's basically the same stuff I talked about already. Yeah, and then the last one was the professors that debate how the Thrace migrated in and out of Iran. So I figured I'd throw that one up there too. Alright, looks like I forgot to add that one to the list of favorites. So I'll have to do that after the show. Alright, so thanks everyone. I hope you have a Merry Christmas, and thanks again for watching the show. Hope you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Facebook. It's Leland Judson, or the Magi Show. And yeah, thanks again. Have a Merry Christmas, and hopefully we don't have any more major world events going. I'm going to keep tracking the earthquakes on the ley line map and give some updates on any patterns that I see coming up. And yeah, I'll try to keep the shows coming. So have a good night, and hopefully everyone gets the gifts they're hoping for. And I guess the real important gift is that everyone's family and friends are healthy, and hopefully we keep that in mind, right? Right, Merry Christmas, and take care, everybody. See you later.
The Magi Show was brought to you by the Milky Way. I hate this galaxy.